Ji, Deepak Prabhu, Jijit Prabhu, Garima Mataji, you answered.
No, all okay.
Okay.
Clear, Prabhuji.
So let's look at verse number 45 and 46. 47 is a very famous verse. It will require good amount of time also for explanation. So there is a chance I may not be able to do it today. We spent a good amount of time in the background. Okay. So we will take that next week. So next week, 47, 48, 49. 49 is also a very nice verse. We will learn all three verses next week. So verse number 45, you can unmute yourself. Traigunya Vishaya Veda.
Traigunya Vishaya Veda.
Nistraigунयो Bhavarjuna.
Nistrogunyo Bhavajuno.
Nirdvandvo Nitya Sattvasto.
Sorry, can't pronounce it. Sorry.
Nirdvandvo Nitya Sattvasto.
Nirvanto Nitya Sarvastho.
Niryogatshema Atmavan.
Niryogye Shem Atmavan.
Translation, anybody reading?
I can read.
Yes.
The Vedas deal mainly with the subject of the three modes of material nature. O Arjuna, become transcendental to those three modes. Be free from all dualities and from all anxieties for gain and safety, and be established in the self.
So now he is starting to explain this philosophy in more and more depth now. So this is the first verse which talks about the guna. Anybody knows what is guna?
हरे कृष्णा प्रभु. तीन
हाँ
गुण
प्रभु,
हैं, सत्व गुण, रजोगुण, तमोगुण.
करेक्ट. इसमें से अच्छा वाला गुण कौन सा है और बुरा कौन सा है?
सबसे अच्छा प्रभु सत्व गुण है, which is mode of
गुडनेस.
goodness. फिर रजो है, फिर तमो है.
करेक्ट.
Mode of
करेक्ट.
passion,
So
mode of ignorance.
yeah, correct. So this is the first verse where Krishna talks about these three modes of material nature. Yeah. In the fourth chapter, he has spoken a little about it. He has spoken about it in the seventh chapter, ninth chapter. And in a lot detail in 14th chapter, 17th chapter, and 18th chapter. So in the introduction to the 14th chapter, Srila Prabhupada has mentioned that if one understands these three modes of material nature, he should consider himself to be liberated. Okay, तो ये concept काफी deep है, not so simple to understand, and we will try to go as much in depth as possible when we go to the 14th and 17th chapter. As of the moment, you only need to understand few things about these modes of nature. Okay, so as Prabhu rightly said, Sattva gun, Rajogun, and Tamagun, yeah, in the order of meaning how good they are. So ऐसा नहीं कि सत्वगुण is good, तमोगुण bad है करके. Actually, Sattvagun also is bad, but Sattvagun is better than Rajo and Tamogun. So that's why if a person is in Tamo or Rajogun, it is at least better that he comes into Sattvagun. Okay, Sattvagun के drawbacks भी है. We will go into that later. Rajogun, Tamogun के drawbacks भी Krishna has mentioned in 14th chapter and 17th chapter in detail. Sattvagun के भी वैसे drawbacks है. But we should understand one thing. This particular statement I may have made previously, and I will make it again also many times. That good is better than bad. Okay, but it is worse compared to excellent. This statement you should remember and Keep it in your mind always. So what happens is, let's say बच्चा पढ़ाई नहीं कर रहा है, तो what will you do? उसको खेलने जाना है उसको, एंड वो पूरा दिन खेलना है उसको, तो आप क्या बोलोगी? दूसरे दिन उसकी एग्जाम है, सो व्हाट विल यू टेल? ओके फाइन, यू गो फॉर प्ले, यू गो टू प्ले फॉर 2 hours, बट कम होम and you have to study for 2 hours. Now this situation is better than the child playing for all the 4 hours, isn't it? But compare this situation with the child wanting to study for all the 4 hours. So child studying for 4 hours is better, is excellent. Child studying for 2 hours and playing for 2 hours is good, and child not studying at all is bad. ये जो बीच वाला है ना, that is better than the lower one, but it is worse compared to the first one. Majority of the times क्या होता है, we get stuck at what is called as good. We do not try to find out that there is something excellent. So ये सत्वगुण जो है वो रजो एंड तमो के कंपैरिजन में इट इज बेटर, but there is something called as vishuddha sattvagun, which does not have any material qualities. It is completely 100% transcendental and 100% pure. So we do not try to find out that, and we remain stuck in the mode of goodness, which is what Krishna is talking about, those people who perform sacrifices for the sake of receiving some results. So what Krishna is telling Arjun is that you Vedas deal mainly with the subject of 3 modes of material nature. So कौन से गुण में आदमी रहेगा, तो what activity should he do, based on which what result will he get, and how can he enjoy it. That is what the Vedas generally talk about. So Krishna is saying that if you remain within those Vedic sacrifices, Vedic verses, then you will be hovering around these 3 modes of material nature. And because these 3 modes of material nature are part of the material world itself, that's why you should try to go beyond the material world, which is what he's saying, become transcendental to these 3 modes, which means you transcend this material world. Nistraigunya Bhavarjuna, go beyond them. तो अगर आप वैसा करते हो तो what will happen? निर्द्वंद्वो and नित्य सत्वस्थो. One should approach any action without any duality. कि ये अच्छी बात है and ये बुरी बात है. No, this is something that is my duty and I will have to perform, irrespective of whether वो अच्छा दिखे या बुरा दिखे. And niryoga kshema, which is one should become free from the thoughts of I will gain something or I will lose something, or this is better for me or this is bad for me. That kind of thought should be given up. And then you will be able to focus on your soul, on the self. Now this is a far deeper verse, but we will try to understand only from the context of Vedic sacrifices. These particular points, na nirdvandvo, nitya sattvasto, niryoga kshema, and atmavan, these 4 compound words, we will be revisiting this in the 3rd chapter, even in the last 18 verses of 2nd chapter, in the 3rd chapter, 4th, 5th, in many places we will be visiting it. So I will not go into the depth of these words now. We will be covering this again. At this point of time, we need to only understand that Krishna is opening up a path for for Arjun, where he can work selflessly. Okay, and he is expected to work selflessly. Hare Krishna. Kuch hai doubt? Anything in this verse? I'm purposely not going deeper into this verse because we will be covering it. But agar kuch hai to batao. Nahi? Okay. So let's look at verse number 46. Yavanartha udapane
यावानर्थ उदपाने
सर्वतः संप्लुतोदके
सर्वतः संलुतोदके
तावान् सर्वेषु वेदेषु
तावान् सर्वेषु वेदेषु
ब्राह्मणस्य विजानतः।
ब्राह्मण ब्राह्मणस्य विजातः
Translation.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
All purposes served by a small well can at once be served by a great reservoir of water. Similarly, all the purpose of Vedas can be served to one who knows the purpose behind them. Hare
Okay.
Krishna.
Hare Krishna. So, to understand this verse, we need to go into how the villages operated previously. Yeah. So, what used to happen previously is people used to dig wells, and these wells had a specific purpose, right? So, for example, the quality of water under the ground in a specific area could be very good. Okay, so in that, generally they will dig a well, and that water they will use it for drinking. Then the quality of water may not be so very good, it could be okay. So they may use it for bathing, and another well they may use it for washing or something like that. So what they used to do is previously, meaning it is not necessary everywhere it used to happen in this way, but the objective used to be that way. Okay, because when the population started increased too much, or the number of wells were not sufficient for the complete village, then probably they might have started mixing the purposes. But otherwise, the objective was to set up different wells for different purposes. So what Krishna is saying is all purposes which can be served by a small well can at once be served by a great reservoir of water. So let's say if I have three different wells of drinking, bathing, and cleaning, then if I compare these three wells with a lake or a river, so that river and the lake will have far, far more quantity of water than these three wells. So Krishna is saying that whatever these three wells can do, the lake or a river can immediately do it. So the purposes which whales can serve can be served by the lake and river also. And then he's saying similarly, the purpose of Vedas, what the purpose of Vedas is, that can be served to the person who understands the purpose behind them. So let's say, okay, why do Vedas exist? If I do not know that, there is a good chance that I might study the Vedas at a superficial level. Okay. And whatever I understand from the Vedas, that at the superficial level may not be sufficient for me to get the in-depth understanding, which is possible only when I understand the purpose behind the Vedas. Right? So let's say there is a what do you say? There is a teacher who is teaching the students, and he is teaching maths, and the student is able to solve some algebraic and expressions and geometrical theorems and all that. But the the student doesn't understand why the teacher is teaching me. If he understands that the teacher wants to see this student to excel not just in this particular subject, but overall in all the subjects, not just in that grade, but all the grades, and beyond the school, beyond the college, to excel in the professional life also. When he understands that, then he will study that subject, or for that matter every subject, with far more dedication and sincerity. But if he studies that equation alone, or just the algebra and geometry as subject alone, not knowing the purpose behind the teacher teaching this student, then he will never be able to work according to the original intended purpose of the teacher. So what Krishna is saying is, one following Vedas blindly without understanding the purpose behind those Vedas is not going to achieve the ultimate objective of Vedas. The ultimate objective can only be achieved if you understand why were Vedas written, what was the purpose behind them. At a superficial level, one might read Vedas, one might look at it, okay, it has described the heavenly planet so beautiful, so many pleasures are there, this, that, and everything, all so many pleasures are there. And to achieve these pleasures, I should do this. So if they get entangled in such sacrifices and the results, and then again sacrifice and again result, they will not be able to achieve the ultimate objective which Vedas originally intended. So he is saying one should become intelligent enough to understand the purpose of the Vedas and not get attached to just performing the rituals and the sacrifices mentioned in the Vedas. So then we will be able to transcend the three modes of material nature, which is what generally Vedas deal with. Okay. Any question around this one? Any
No.
question? Okay.
No,
Now, okay, fine. So now let us understand this from a little another perspective. So Vedas, what Vedas have described, uh, in order to, okay, it first have described various kind of pleasures that are available either on this earth or on heaven or wherever it is. These pleasures have been described very nicely, because of which when a person reads it, gradually a desire develops in his mind to go or to enjoy these pleasures. Then the Vedas also further describe that in order to receive so and so pleasure, one must perform so and so activity, which could be a sacrifice, which could be charity, which could be anything. So then the person, and in what manner should be performed, on which day, what time, how, and all that is mentioned. So it talks about the complete ritual to be performed, and it also mentions the benefit that one can achieve. And it also talks about, it also describes the benefit, which generates a desire among people. So then one performs this activity, then he achieves that pleasure, and after he achieves that pleasure, he may be satisfied, or he may want to do more and more rituals to get more and more enjoyment. So that sacrifice, that cycle goes on, and these promises that are there in the Vedas could be a beautiful wife or a beautiful husband or a lot of money or good health or beautiful body or a lot of education and wealth and whatever it is, right? So this, when these become attractive and we start working towards it, there is a chance that we may think that there is nothing more to life than this. And then the path towards the Lord is hindered. And which is what Krishna is saying, that will not give you permanent satisfaction. It will give you a temporary result, but it will give you dissatisfaction later. And Brahmanasya Vijanatah. Okay, so the definition of Brahman is Brahma Janati iti Brahman, one who understands the supreme truth, Brahma. Okay, so Brahma and Brahma are two different things. People always mistake Brahma, the person Brahma who created this world, they consider that as Brahma. So Brahma is a impersonal truth, meaning formless, supreme, formless version of the Lord. Okay, which may be a bit difficult to understand now, but we will go deeper into these concepts later. So certain people say that God does not have a form. Certain people say God has a form. So what does Bhagavad Gita say? We will study that. What does Krishna say? We will, when we go to the 12th chapter, we will study this. So Arjun asks in the first verse itself, Arjun asks the question, what is the right form of worship that we will study? So the formless version of the Lord, which is called as Brahma, the one who understands this supreme truth is called as a Brahman. And how do we recognize a Brahman today? Any guesses? Who, according to you, is a Brahman? Have you seen a Brahman?
Yes, Prabhu. I think the one who wears the thread. I
Okay.
don't know what to
Yeah,
say,
yeah.
brother.
No, no, that's very right, actually. And what you have said is that is precisely how it is. Okay. So I'll just show you some statement in Srimad Bhagavatam. Okay, Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 12, Chapter 2, the symptoms of Kali Yuga. Okay, let's say what Shukadev Goswami is saying. Okay. Okay, this is the symptoms of prophecy about what will happen, how it will happen, what will be the quality of people, and other characteristics in Kali Yuga. 5,000 years back, this was spoken. And how true it is, we can see that now. Men and women will live together merely because of superficial attraction. Success in business will depend on deceit. Womanliness and manliness will be judged according to one's expertise in sex, and a man will be known as Brahman just by wearing a thread. So, this is precisely how we identify Brahman. So, we think that a child born in the family of Brahman is a Brahman. Huh? And if he wears a thread, then he's a Brahman. He might do all nonsense activities behind the curtain, but then still we will call him Brahman. But that is not the actual definition of Brahman. A Brahman is one who understands the supreme truth, who is in complete knowledge about it. So many of these thoughts that we have learned from the society, we after learning Bhagavad Gita, you will understand the reality behind them. Hare Krishna. So we will end it here today, and we will do the most, or I would say one of the most famous verses of Bhagavad Gita. You might have heard this many times. Karmanyevadhikaraste ma phaleshu kadachana. Ma karma phala heturbhu mate sangostva karman. How many of you have heard this verse before?
I think when this serial was coming on TV, we used
Ah,
to hear it every week.
no, that was those were two different verses. They were from fourth chapter, seventh and eighth verse. Paritranaya sadhunam vinashaya cha
Yes.
dushkrutam. This verse is also there. It's also quite a famous, which talks about, most of the people when you talk to them about Bhagavad Gita and
Yeah.
ask them, what do you think? What is the message of Bhagavad Gita? So they will only say, Karma kar phal ki chinta mat kar.
You're right.
So that is the shallow level of understanding they have about Bhagavad Gita because they have never taken efforts to understand Bhagavad Gita. Okay. So people try to obtain knowledge from TV serials and movies and all that, which is not the right source of knowledge. Now, look at it. Let's look at it logically. Yeah? We will talk about this in depth next week. This is verse number 47. Okay. And 46 verses of the first chapter have been spoken. So together 93 verses. There are totally 700 in Bhagavad Gita. So 607 verses are still spoken after this particular verse, verse number 47, after this verse in Bhagavad Gita. So if in this verse, Bhagwan says, Karma kar phal ki chinta mat kar. If this verse was the message of this verse was the ultimate message, then the Lord wasted his and our time also, right, by speaking 607 more verses. But this is not the ultimate message. The ultimate message comes in the 18th chapter, 65th and 66th verse. And within 510 verses, Bhagavad Gita gets over. So there is much more to Bhagavad Gita than this message alone. So why did he speak this one? And what is the actual meaning of this one? So let's look at next week then. Hare Krishna. Anybody, any question?
No,
No?
Prabhu. No. Looking forward to next week.
Okay.
Hare Krishna.
Hare
Hare
Krishna.
Krishna.
Rohini Mataji, thank you for joining. I know you were going to be silent, you told me. So I hope you
Hare
were
Krishna,
able to have.
Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna. I hope you were able to hear. I hope it made some sense and hope you will
Yes,
not
yes,
run.
I could hear it. Yeah,
I, I hope you
Path
will
would
not
allow me
run
to
away now.
listen today. Yeah,
Okay, okay, fine.
thank you.
Hare Krishna. Thank
Hare
you.
Krishna.
We'll
Thank
meet
you.
next
Thank you.
week. Hare Krishna.
Thank you.